The office was buzzing with quiet voices and the sound of typing. It was a normal Monday morning. Everyone was busy, sipping coffee, reading emails, and getting ready for the weekly staff meeting. Sana walked in wearing a sharp blue suit. Her heels clicked on the floor, and her perfume filled the air. She was confident, proud, and always tried to stay on top of everything. At just 26, she had already become one of the rising stars of the company. Many respected her, but some feared her attitude. She entered the meeting room smiling at a few coworkers, but deep down she looked down on most of them, especially those who weren't in high positions. To her, respect was only for people at the top. As the meeting started, the manager began discussing the company's performance. Everyone listened carefully. A few minutes later, the door creaked open quietly. It was the janitor, an older man, maybe in his late 50s, walked in with a small mop bucket. He had gray hair, dark skin, and a tired look on his face. His name was Mr. Khalid. He moved slowly and gently, trying not to disturb the meeting. He noticed a small water spill near the corner of the room and went to clean it up. But as he bent down, his hand hit the mop bucket. It tipped over slightly, and a little more water splashed on the floor. The sound caught everyone's attention. Sana turned her head sharply and saw him. Her eyes narrowed, and then she laughed out loud, sharp, mocking. "Oh God, can't even clean." "Quietly," she said, her voice cutting through the room like a knife. Everyone froze. Some tried to smile politely. Others looked away, uncomfortable. One coworker, Danish, shifted in his seat. He knew Sana had gone too far, but no one said anything. Mr. Khalid didn't speak. He didn't defend himself. He just looked at her for a moment, his eyes calm, deep, and unreadable. Then he slowly cleaned the water, picked up his bucket, and walked out without a word. Sana rolled her eyes and whispered, "Maybe next time knock before you enter a meeting." The manager glanced at her but stayed silent. The room felt tense. After the meeting ended, people whispered about the incident in the hallways. "Did you see how she laughed at him? Too rude, even for her. But he's just the janitor, right?" Still, something felt strange. Sana walked past them proudly, pretending she didn't hear. She felt powerful, important. To her, mocking someone like Mr. Khalid was nothing serious, just a joke. But something strange happened that day. When Mr. Khalid left the building at the end of his shift, a black car was waiting for him outside. A shiny, expensive, black SUV. No one had ever seen him get picked up like that. Most assumed he walked home or took the bus. Inside the car sat a driver, who quickly got out and opened the back door for Mr. Khalid. The janitor, still in his old clothes, noted and stepped in. The driver closed the door gently and drove off. One security guard watching from the gate frowned. "Why would a janitor need a car like that?" he whispered to himself. The next morning, the office felt strange, quiet, like something was about to happen. By noon, an email was sent to all employees. "Urgent staff meeting, conference room, 2 p.m., sharp." No reason, no details. Na saw the email and smiled. "Maybe a promotion is coming," she said to herself. She fixed her hair, added a bit of lipstick, and walked confidently to the room. At 2 p.m., the staff gathered. Everyone looked around, curious and confused. The manager stood near the door, checking his watch. Then suddenly, the door opened and in walked a man in a clean navy blue suit, black shoes, and a silver watch. Everyone gasped. It was Mr. Khalid, but not as the janitor. His shoulders were straight, his face clean-shaved, his hair neatly brushed. He looked calm but powerful, like someone used to giving orders, not taking them. Sana's eyes widened. She didn't blink. Her hand slowly dropped from the armrest of her chair. The manager stepped forward. "I'd like everyone to meet our new regional director, Mr. Khalid," he said with a nervous smile. Silence. It was the kind of silence that screams louder than a room full of shouting. Sana's heart dropped. Her face turned pale. She looked around, but no one dared say anything. Some looked shocked. Others looked guilty. Mr. Khalid slowly looked around the room, his eyes calm, searching. Then they stopped at Sana. For a moment, no one breathed. Didn't say a word to her. He simply turned and walked to the front of the room. He opened a file, cleared his throat, and said, "I believe it's time we talk about respect in this workplace." The office had never been this quiet before. After Mr. Khalid was introduced as the new regional director, everyone felt like they were walking on glass. Nobody knew what to say, what to think, or how to behave. They had seen him just yesterday, as a janitor. Now he was sitting in the director's office, and she hadn't said a word since that meeting. She sat at her desk, pretending to type. Her fingers moved across the keyboard, but her eyes stared at the glass wall of Mr. Khalid's office. Her mind was spinning. Her heart felt heavy. Embarrassment, fear, and regret all mixed in her chest. Coworkers walked past her, whispering in low voices. Wasn't she the one who laughed at him yesterday? She insulted him in front of everyone, and now he's her boss. This is going to be interesting. No one said anything to her directly, but everyone was watching. In the break room, Danish poured coffee and shook his head. "She should have known better," he muttered to another colleague. "You never know who you're talking to." In the hallway, people kept asking each other the same question. Who is he really? Because Mr. Khalid wasn't just a regular janitor. That was clear now. Later that day, 2 employees from HR were seen taking down the old plaques from the director's office. They replaced them with new nameplates. Mr. Khalid Khan, regional director Sana, saw it while walking to the restroom. Her stomach twisted. She leaned against the wall for a moment and took a deep breath. How could a janitor become a regional director overnight? Had he been testing them all along? Or was there something about his past no one knew? The truth was, no one really knew anything about Mr. Khalid. He had worked at the office for just 3 weeks. Quiet, polite, always on time. He did his cleaning job without complaints. Never spoke much. Never asked for anything. Most people ignored him. Some nodded politely. A few, like Sana, treated him like he didn't matter. But now, they were realizing they had made a big mistake. That evening, as the day was ending, another shocking scene happened. It was around 5:30 p.m. Most employees were heading out. The sun was low, and the parking lot was nearly full. Sana stood near the window. Looking down, she watched as Mr. Khalid exited the building with his assistant walking beside him. He looked like a completely different man. Calm, powerful, in control. Then, just like yesterday, a black luxury SUV pulled up, but this time, 2 security guards also stood nearby. Opening the doors and greeting him with respect, Sana stared. The same man she had laughed at for spilling water was now being treated like royalty. She turned away, her face burning. Later that night, she sat in her apartment, unable to sleep. She kept thinking about his face, his calm eyes, the way he looked at her during the meeting. He hadn't said a word to her, not one. That silence was louder than any insult. She remembered her exact words. Can't even clean quietly. She buried her face in her hands. For the first time, she began to feel something new. Shame. The next morning, something even more surprising happened. All staff members received a new email. Subject: Mandatory Workshop, Respect and Workplace Ethics. Location: First Floor Meeting Hall. Time: 10 a.m. Led by Mr. Khalid. People looked at each other nervously. A workshop. What's he going to say? Is he going to name people? Is this about Sana? Sana's hands shook slightly as she read the email. She knew this was coming, but she didn't know how bad it would get. At exactly 10 a.m., everyone sat down in the large meeting hall. No one spoke. No one dared look around. The air felt thick, heavy. Then Mr. Khalid entered. He didn't need to raise his voice. His presence alone was powerful. He stood in front of them and began. I want to talk about something important, he said calmly. Respect, dignity, and how we treat people when we think no one is watching. He paused. Some people shifted in their seats. Because often, he continued, the way you treat someone you think is beneath you says more about you than them. Sana lowered her eyes. Mr. Khalid went on. I've been a janitor. I've also been a director, but titles are just labels. What matters is how we carry our hearts. He looked around the room. Every person here deserves respect, not because of their job, but because they are human. No one spoke. No one moved. In Sana, her heart pounded as she waited for him to mention her name, but he didn't. He ended the session with one sentence. Kindness doesn't cost anything, but the lack of it can cost you everything. Then he walked out. 2 days had passed since the workshop, but the silence in the office hadn't gone away. Everyone was polite now, too polite. People greeted each other with forced smiles and nervous laughter. No one wanted to be the next person called out for disrespect. Mr. Khalid's words still echoed in their minds. Kindness doesn't cost anything, but the lack of it can cost you everything. But the one who felt the words the most was Sana. She barely spoke anymore. Her smile had faded. She avoided eye contact and walked with her head down. Her laughter, once loud and proud, was now completely gone. She had always believed power came from speaking loudly, being bold, and showing confidence. But now, she saw power in silence, especially the kind Mr. Khalid carried. It was Thursday morning when it happened. The day began like any other. The soft sound of keyboards, the smell of tea, and the usual office buzz. Then, a new email arrived in everyone's inbox. Subject: Office restructure, important changes starting next week. Bodhi. Dear all, as part of the company's vision for leadership growth and workplace improvement, key changes are being made. A few departments will be reassigned under new supervision. All current team leads will be reviewed and may be placed under probation based on past performance and team behavior reports. Further details to be shared tomorrow during a live announcement by Regional Director Mr. Khalid Khan. Regards. HR Department. The office froze. People looked up from their desks. Some stood to read the email again. Probation, team behavior reports, leadership restructure. Everyone's minds raced. Danish whispered to his coworker, what does that mean? Are they replacing managers? Someone replied, I think they're removing team leads. Maybe even Sana. Sana stared at her screen, unable to breathe properly. Her palms were sweaty. Her legs felt weak. She knew this wasn't just an email. This was the beginning of her test. She remembered how she had once bragged about her position, how she talked down to junior staff and cleaners. All of that might come back now, not as whispers behind her back, but as official reports. She looked at Mr. Khalid's office. The door was closed. The blinds were half drawn. But behind that glass, she could see his figure, sitting calmly. At his desk, reading, writing, planning. Her mind filled with questions. Is he going to fire me? Is he gathering proof? Will he embarrass me publicly, the way I did to him? She had no answers. That day, no one worked properly. Everyone just waited for the storm. The next morning, a large notice board was placed near the main hall. Sin read, leadership announcement. 11 a.m. attendance required at exactly 11 a.m. All employees gathered in the meeting space. The mood was heavy, the energy tense. Mr. Khalid walked in, not in anger, but calm and focused as always. He stood in front of the crowd, looked at them, then spoke. Leadership isn't just about performance. It's about how you lead people, not by fear, but by respect. He turned to the board. A chart showed names of departments and new supervisors. A few names were removed. One of them was Sanos. The crowd gasped softly. Her name was gone. Her title, Team Lead Marketing, had been erased. Instead, under that role, a new name had appeared. Danish Ahmed, Acting Lead Probation Period. Sana's heart sank. She stared at the board in silence. It had happened. She had been removed, not shouted at, not insulted, but silently replaced. Mr. Khalid didn't look at her directly, but his message was clear. Power doesn't need volume. Respect doesn't need revenge, and change doesn't need noise. After the meeting, Sana walked slowly back to her desk. People looked at her, some with pity, others with curiosity, but no one said anything, not even Danish. He didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He just sat down and got to work, just like Mr. Khalid would. In the afternoon, a short email arrived. In Sana's inbox from Mr. Khalid. Subject, schedule meeting 4:00 p.m. THAT. Was it just one line? No explanation, no greeting, no emotion. Sana sat frozen for the next 2 hours. And when the clock hit 4 p.m., she stood up, walked slowly to the director's office, and knocked. What would happen inside? No one knew, but one thing was clear. The woman who once laughed loudly, now walked in with silence. Sana stood outside Mr. Khalid's office. Her fingers lightly tapped against her notebook, but her hands were cold. The last time she stood here, she had been full of pride and confidence. Now, she felt like a shadow of her old self. She took a deep breath and knocked softly. Come in, came the calm voice from inside. She slowly pushed the door open and stepped in. Mr. Khalid was seated behind his desk reviewing a file. He didn't look up immediately. The room felt still, almost too quiet. Sana stood straight, waiting. After a few seconds, he finally closed the file and looked at her. Please, sit. She nodded and sat down. Her heart was pounding so loud, she could hear it in her ears. Mr. Khalid leaned back in his chair, his eyes steady, his face unreadable. There was no anger, no emotion, just silence. I assume you saw the board this morning, he said. Sana swallowed. Yes, sir. You're no longer the team lead, but you're still a part of the department. She nodded slowly, unable to find the right words. He looked down at another paper in front of him. Then he spoke again, softly, but clearly. I've read reports about your performance. You were efficient, yes. Delivered results, yes. But your leadership came with fear, not respect. Her eyes dropped to her lap. I also reviewed security footage, he added, including the moment you laughed at me when I was cleaning the conference room. Her breath caught in her throat. He paused. Let the silence speak. Then he continued. You didn't just laugh at a janitor. You laughed at a human being. Tears welled up in her eyes. I'm not here to punish you, he said. I'm here to remind this office that no position makes someone better than others. She slowly lifted her eyes to meet his. I'm sorry, she whispered. Truly, I was wrong. Mr. Khalid nodded gently. Good, he said, because change doesn't start with words. It starts with facing yourself. He stood up and walked toward the window. You're not being fired, but this is your chance to rebuild from the inside. Not for me, not for the title, but for your own Sana wiped a tear that escaped her eye. For the first time in years, she didn't care about her image, her voice, her title. All she cared about was doing better. Thank you, she whispered again. Mr. Khalid turned to her and gave a small nod. You may go. As she walked out of his office, her steps felt lighter, but her heart was heavy, not with fear, but with reflection. She passed by the same hallway where she used to walk like she owned the place. This time, she kept her head low, not in shame, but in thought. Colleagues looked at her. Some avoided eye contact. Others nodded softly. She reached the restroom and looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back wasn't the same Sana smile she used to wear. The proud, loud, fake one was gone. In its place was silence, and for the first time that silence felt honest. The next morning, Sana came early. Before anyone else, she entered the break room and made tea. Not just for herself, but for others too. She placed a cup on Danish's desk before he arrived. She held the door open for the receptionist, and when she passed the new cleaning staff, she smiled. A real smile, one that came from the heart. They smiled back. In Mr. Khalid's office, he noticed her behavior change on the security feed. He didn't say anything, he simply watched. Sometimes, silence is louder than praise. Sana's journey wasn't over, but it had finally started. Not as a leader in title, but as a leader in character. It was a quiet Friday morning when curiosity finally got the best of everyone in the office. The question no one had dared to ask out loud was now the only thing they could think about. Who is Mr. Khalid really? How did a man who worked as a janitor suddenly become the regional director of the same company? Was he planted there? A test from corporate? Did he have a secret background? Rumors began to float like paper in the wind. I heard he used to own a company abroad. No, I think he was part of the board all along. What if he's related to the CEO? My cousin said he's ex-carry, maybe intelligence. No one knew the truth, and Mr. Khalid, he didn't say anything. He just worked, quietly, professionally. But what happened that day would reveal a secret no one expected. By around 3 p.m., an older man entered the office. He wore a formal suit, had gray hair, and walked with a calm grace. He went straight to Mr. Khalid's office without asking for directions. The receptionist looked surprised. 5 minutes later, Mr. Khalid came out of his office and introduced the man to the staff. Everyone, this is Mr. Rehman, one of the co-founders of this company. The staff froze. Mr. Rehman gave a warm smile and said, I've come to visit a dear friend, and someone I trust deeply. He placed a hand on Khalid's shoulder. He's not just your regional director. He was once my top advisor. A wave of shock passed through the room. He helped this company expand into 3 countries, Mr. Rehman continued. Then, a few years ago, he took a break to care for his sick mother. After her passing, he returned, but not as an executive. He asked to start from the bottom. Someone gasped quietly. Yes, Mr. Rehman said with a smile. He chose to work as a janitor, not because he had to, but because he wanted to see how people are treated when they hold no power. The office went silent. No one dared move. Sonia, standing near the back, felt her knees go weak. This wasn't just about cleaning floors. It wasn't just about respect. It was a lesson, a deep one. Mr. Rehman's voice softened. He learned what he needed. And now, he's here to remind all of us that the way we treat others speaks louder than anything on our resumes. After the founder left, the office buzzed with energy. People looked at Mr. Khalid with new eyes, not just as a boss, but as a man with wisdom, patience, and unmatched strength. Some felt guilt, some felt awe, and some, like Santa, felt both. That evening, as most employees left, Mr. Khalid walked into the cleaning storage room. He stood still for a moment, looking at the mop hanging on the wall. He gently took it down. His hands, once covered in soap water, now wore an expensive watch. But the way he held the mop, it was like holding a memory. Sana passed by and saw him. She stopped, swallowed hard, then spoke softly. You really did it, didn't you? You watched all of us to see who we really are. He looked at her calmly. No, he said. I didn't watch you. I listened to your hearts, and your hearts spoke louder than your words. Sana nodded, eyes misty. He hung the mop back up and turned to her. Power comes and goes, he said, but character, that stays forever. And with that, he walked away, leaving behind not just the mop, but a lesson no one in that office would ever forget. Monday morning came with a strange feeling. The sun was bright, the air was calm, and yet, there was a quiet weight in the office. Everyone worked with more respect now. Voices were lower, smiles were softer. People held doors, said thank you, and helped each other without being asked. But one person still carried a storm inside, Sana. Ever since Mr. Rehman's visit, she couldn't stop thinking about what she had done, not just to Mr. Khalid, but to everyone she'd looked down on for years. She had apologized before, in words, but words, she knew now, were easy. That real apology had to come from the heart. That morning, instead of checking emails, she opened a blank document. Her hands shook slightly, her eyes blinked fast, and then, she began to write. Subject: I was wrong. A letter from Sana. Dear team. This is not easy for me to write, but I know I must. Many of you have known me as your former team lead. Some may have respected me, others feared me. But now, I know leadership is not about position, it's about people. I want to say I'm sorry. I was proud, loud, and often unkind. I judged people based on their job titles. I believed that being strong meant speaking over others. But I was wrong. Mr. Khalid taught me something I will never forget, not through words, but through his silence, his dignity, and his actions. When I laughed at him, he didn't respond with anger. When I mocked his job, he showed grace. When I finally broke down, he gave me a second chance. That kind of strength is what I want to grow inside myself. I don't expect you to forget what I did, but I hope one day, you'll see that I'm trying to change. From now on, I want to be someone who lifts others up, not puts them down. Thank you for reading this. And thank you, Mr. Khalid, for showing me what real leadership looks like. Sincerely, Sana. She read the letter 3 times. Her hands trembled as she clicked send to all. The message was now in every inbox across the office. At first, nothing happened. No one said anything. No replies. No reaction. Sana returned to her desk and kept working, though her eyes kept watching, waiting, hoping. Then it started. A reply. Danish wrote, that takes real courage. Thank you for writing this. Then Aisha, we all make mistakes. What matters is owning them. Then others, one by one, kind replies poured in. Even people she thought hated her showed support. Some didn't say much, just a thumbs up, or a short respect, but it meant everything to her. And then, one final email came in. From Mr. Khalid. She opened it slowly. Subject: Your letter, Sana. I read your message. I can see it came from a genuine place. Growth starts when we face our reflection honestly. Keep walking this path. Not for the title, not for others, but for yourself. Khalida tears welled in her eyes. This wasn't forgiveness from a boss. This was a lesson from a teacher. Later that day, Sana went to the break room. She saw the new janitor quietly mopping the floor. He smiled shyly and moved aside so she could pass. But this time Sana didn't walk past him. She stopped, and for the first time, she picked up a second mop and said, "Can I help?" The janitor looked confused, then smiled. Together, they cleaned in silence, not because they had to, but because it was a moment of healing. It had been 2 weeks since Sana's apology letter. The office was different now. People greeted each other with kindness. The tension was gone. Even the air felt lighter. The team was working together like never before. But on a rainy Thursday afternoon, something happened that no one expected. At exactly 2:15 p.m., the elevator doors opened, and a young woman in a black suit stepped out. She held a folder in one hand and wore a serious expression. Her heels clicked across the floor as she walked straight to the receptionist. "I'm here to see Mr. Khalid," she said. The receptionist blinked. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," the woman replied, "but he'll want to see me." Her voice was calm but firm. The receptionist nodded and picked up the phone. Inside his office, Mr. Khalid was reviewing reports. When the call came through, he paused for a moment, then he said, "Send her in." Seconds later, the woman stepped into his office. For the first time in a long while, Mr. Khalid looked surprised. He stood up slowly. The woman nodded and smiled gently. "Yes, uncle." Everyone in the office noticed. Sana, who was walking by, peeked through the glass wall and froze. She whispered to Danish, "Who is she?" He shrugged. "I've never seen her before, but Mr. Khalid looks different." The door to his office remained closed for almost an hour. Then finally, it opened. Mr. Khalid stepped out, followed by Amara. He cleared his throat and said, "Everyone, may I have your attention, please?" People gathered near the center of the floor. "I'd like you all to meet Amara Khan, my niece. She's the head of our London office, and also one of the youngest executives in the company's history." The crowd gasped. Some clapped, some just stared. Amara smiled politely. "I'm visiting as part of an internal audit," she explained, "but I'm also here for another reason, to select someone from this office for a training program in London." Now everyone was fully alert. Mr. Khalid continued, "Only one person will be chosen. This isn't based on seniority, but on growth, character, and potential." He glanced around the room. Everyone felt the same question in their mind. Who would it be? Later that evening, as people left the office, whispers filled the halls. "Maybe it'll be Danish. He's been here for years." "No, what about Aisha? She's the most organized. I think Sana has a chance, especially after the changes she's made." Sana overheard them. She smiled softly, but didn't say anything. Heart was racing. She didn't care about titles anymore. But this opportunity, it meant something more. Not status, not a chance to become better. That night, Mr. Khalid and Amara sat in his office, reviewing files and watching short security clips. Amara pointed at the screen where Sana was helping the janitor mop the floor. "She's changed," she said. Mr. Khalid nodded. "She needed to break first, to rebuild." Amara paused, thinking deeply. "We'll see who stands out tomorrow. Let's not tell them yet." Mr. Khalid agreed. "Sometimes, it's not about who wants the spotlight. It's about who shines in the dark." The next morning, the office felt like a ticking clock. Every footstep, every glance, every whisper. Everyone knew what was coming. The final announcement. That who would be chosen for the London training program. Sana sat quietly at her desk. She wasn't nervous this time. She had already won something far greater, self-respect for the first time in her career. She had peace in her heart. Across the office, Danish pretended to focus on his screen, but his eyes kept checking the hallway. Took out her notebook and tried to stay calm. Everyone waited. And then, at exactly 11 a.m., Mr. Khalid stepped out of his office. Amara followed, holding a white envelope. They called everyone to the meeting area. Mr. Khalid spoke first. "Over the last few weeks, I've watched this team grow. I've seen kindness where there was once silence, teamwork where there was once pride, and change where there was once ego." He looked around the room, pausing at every face. This decision was not made lightly. Then he nodded. Toward Amara, she opened the envelope slowly and read aloud. "The candidate chosen for the London Executive Training Program is Sana Ali." The room froze. Sana's breath stopped. Her eyes widened in disbelief. For a full moment, she couldn't move. Then Danish started clapping. Aisha joined in soon. The whole office was applauding. Tears filled Sana's eyes as she slowly stood up. Her hands shook, but her heart felt light. She walked forward, where Amara handed her the letter. "You earned this," Amara said softly. "Not because of your skills, but because of your growth. Mr. Khalid smiled. You didn't chase the title this time, Sana. You chased the truth. Sana looked down at the letter, then back at him. Thank you, she whispered, voice cracking. Thank you for not giving up on me. That evening, the office held a small celebration. There were snacks, smiles, and stories shared. But the best moment came when Sana stood up and gave a short speech. Sometimes life humbles you in the most unexpected ways. I thought I had everything, a title, a voice, power, but I had nothing if I didn't have kindness. Mr. Khalid showed me that true leadership isn't about being loud, it's about listening. And sometimes, the people we look down on are the ones we should be learning from. The room went silent, then loud with applause. As people left that night, Sana walked over to the cleaning staff and handed one of them a wrapped gift. It's just something small, she smiled, to say thank you. The cleaner opened it later, a new pair of shoes, and a handwritten note. For the feet that carry so much, with so little thanks. The janitor smiled softly, and far across the room, Mr. Khalid watched silently, his eyes warm. The mission he came for was complete.